Hey Campalorians, Mike here. I made a huge mistake and it could have cost me dearly. Stick around. A couple weeks ago, went up to visit Nathan, and as I was leaving, I was going through my checklist. If you haven't seen the checklist video, the link's gonna be right up here. Check that out. And I was going through the checklist, doing everything correctly, checking my ball hitch, chains, everything. And as it turns out, I didn't do something quite right. So if you go back to the checklist video and watch this part right here, if you look at the receiver from below where the ball goes in, there's the latching mechanism here that sometimes will get stuck in this position like this. So just check that, make sure it's pulled back so that you can mate up very easily so this area here is open. So this is exactly what I thought I did correctly, but I didn't. What had happened was, the tongue did not seat all the way down onto the ball like it's supposed to. So I warned to be aware of this because that little hitch will get in the way and the ball won't go in, it'll sit there. So it kind of looked like it was attached well, but it wasn't. So I had this weird thing happen and it made me come to some strange conclusions. So the night before, it had been raining a lot and I had a very strange electrical issue in my trailer. I had noticed that my marker lights were illuminated like ever so dimly. And I was thinking, okay, maybe some water got into the 7-pin connector and there was some kind of contact being made in the slightest way. I don't know, but it made me think that water somehow was affecting my electronics on my trailer. So when I left Nathan's with the ball hitch incorrectly, which by the way, we both looked at it and said, yeah, looks good, check off the checklist, safe, good to go. So as I'm driving through town, every time I'd come to a stop, I'd feel a clunk. You know, I was like, huh. And what it really felt like was that my electric brakes were grabbing a little harder than they probably should have been, and then just kind of releasing at the last moment. So it just felt like, you know, tension that was just being released. And it's the strangest thing. So I was like, it must have something to do with that. So I'm adjusting my brake controller and I basically turn it off and it's still doing this. Idiot move, stubborn as I am, I did not stop at that moment. I just kept going, probably for about 50 miles. And finally I was like, you know what? I need to pull over, go to the bathroom anyways. Let me do a visual check on it. And sure enough, I go look at it and I'm like, holy cow. The tongue is not seated on the ball. It's sitting on top of it. And I guess because I had enough tongue weight, even though I'd gone over bumps and whatnot, it had stayed in place. That was sheer luck. I don't advise you try it. So I jacked it up and opened it up, fixed that whole scenario, dropped the tongue back down onto the ball, clamped it in correctly, locked it, did all that, and it was absolutely perfect at that point. So I just wanted to bring that up. Even though I had a checklist, even though 2 people put eyes on it, a mistake was still made. You can't be too careful. So always double check that. Make sure it looks like this and not like this. Also, a couple follow-ups on that checklist video that I wanted to mention. Somebody commented that when you use an extension with a torque wrench, that it could change the values of the torque wrench. So I looked this up and what I found was, yes, if you use an extension that makes the torque wrench longer, there's a calculation you have to do to figure out how to adjust to compensate for the new angles. But if you're at the center point, meaning if you're using a socket type torque wrench and you're putting an extension on it, that does not affect the numerical values of your torque. I can imagine that there might be like some microscopic differences, that are really minute, but according to what I read on the internet, and you can trust everything on the internet, do your own research if you're unsure, but I read that, and so I just wanted to address that using that 3-inch extension that I was using to torque my wheels, the lug nuts on my wheels, works just fine. And you shouldn't be concerned about accuracy. If you've set it to 110 pounds, you're going to be pretty close. But the other thing was, I did watch another video on somebody greasing their wheel bearings, and they did a different technique than I did. So basically, same situation. You take off the dust cap, take off the little rubber cap, put your grease fitting on there, and add some grease. But what they did was they had actually jacked up the trailer, and they were spinning the wheel as they're adding grease, and they kept adding grease until the grease started to seep out, and then they were happy with it at that point. Makes sense. I don't think my way is necessarily wrong, but that sounds like a better way to do it. Again, do your own research, but I just thought I'd mention that I saw that, and I wanted to bring that up. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, please like, helps us out a lot. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate all of you. Leave some comments below. Those comments get me to do things to bring more information to you, to come back and correct myself if I made a mistake. We want to be transparent. We want to help you. We don't want to spread any misinformation. We want to spread good information so that we're all safe, having a good time camping, and we love you all. Thanks a lot.